Welcome to what I call the parts depot. Square bodies everywhere. Jennifer says I can't call it my own junkyard because that's not a proper name for someone's yard. So, based off of a World War II spoof with Cary Grant called Operation Petticoat, you gotta watch the movie to understand it. They had uh, not the parts depot, what do they call it? They had a thing that's parts depot was how we call this. Anyway, today we're going to talk about steering on square body trucks, Suburbans, and K5s, and walk up to it. There's more to this too. Size of the horses watching us up there. Also have my green wall. Zoom in a little bit. Yes, size of the old gasser parts deuce. There are 8 6.2s or 6.5s in cans and 1 deuce and a half multi-fuel in a can. I call it my green wall. All right. I figured this Suburban is a 91, yeah, 91 3/4 ton gasser that had a small block with a TH400 in it, 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton. I'm going to talk about steering issues with square bodies, and since the front fender is missing, this is really easy to get to. All right, let's see if I can zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. That's a good framing. Okay. This is your steering column. This is the end of it. This piece here, there's just 2 little pins on the side of this shaft, soaked in grease, and it slides front and back. This is made to collapse. This goes inside that part. So if you're in a front end wreck, the steering shaft won't come through and spear you in the chest. There's a little bit of slop here. There's a little bit. But there's this one. This is, I think the official word is flexible joint, but everyone I've ever heard it call it is the rag joint. The rag joint is basically a piece of tire that allows this and this to move and flex. There is 2 bolts holding on, and there's a pin to keep it so it doesn't move. You can kind of tell this thing's up against one side of the pin because the whole thing twists. You got slop in your steering, that's one of the first things to check. And go over to the cow dog. Show you on here a very good upgrade is the XJ. Let me zoom out a little bit. The XJ, Jeep XJs. I forget what year they were, but they're in the 90s. Jeep dealers still have them for less than $100, but the shaft has a U-joint here. It has a collapsible part. Yeah, you can see that right there. Then it has a U-joint on this end. No more rag joint. The only trouble is to make it fit up here. You see that bolt right there? There's a bolt that screws into here. I had to notch the bottom of my steering column shaft for that bolt to go in. Other than that, it was a direct bolt in. Now, the slide slip yoke function down there on this part is very tight. I bought it brand new. My go-to answer is Amazon, but I don't remember where I got it. It was like $87 6 years ago. And that thing was super, super tight. I actually heated up with a torch to get to bend or to slip at all. I could not make it, on my weight, and I'm kind of heavy, could not make it slip. To make this thing fit, I heat it up to collapse a little bit, get all lined up, then heat it up to pull it out. Do not heat it so much that you cause the goo inside to come out because then you'll get another rattle point. All right. On these trucks, so that's the XJ shaft. That actually is a worthwhile mod to do. I put myself in shadow. I don't want to do that. All right. The main bugaboo on these trucks if you have loose steering and the truck is new to you, or suddenly loose steering, you can almost guarantee that the frame right under here, or somewhere between, is cracked. There are 1, 2, 3, and 4 holes through the frame that thread into the steering box flange. The frame will crack. And if the frame hasn't cracked, these heat are pressed in hot, cool down rivets will get slop in them. So your choice, if you find that, is to pull all this junk off, weld the frame back up, but you haven't improved it, you just fixed it. There's a company out in Colorado called OffRoad Design. OffRoad Design, let me zoom out a little bit here. I guess you can see it with this one. Maybe not. OffRoad Design sells all, they specialize in these trucks, square body Chevys. They take them out in the mountains in Moab. They're real close to Moab on the western slope of Colorado. And when you call them on the phone, no matter who answers, old guy, young girl, old lady, doesn't matter. They know these trucks. That is the best, most helpful tech call I've ever gotten as far as these trucks go. Real close to Flying Miata, which is just a few miles away from them in Grand Junction. All right. ORD, Off-Road Design. I have their bushings in the front on my front spring. I have their entire housing that replaces this housing back here, their bushing, their shackle arms, their bushings down here on both sides. I got their add-a leaf on the cow dog. And I did their 2.5-inch shackle flip on the back of the cow dog. So between their 1-inch add-a leaf in the front, 2.5-inch shackle flip on the back, the cow dog sits level. That's how much my rear springs were sagging. All right. So the broken frame, prevent broken frame, stabilize the frame. ORD has a fix. I'm going to try to crawl underneath and not turn the camera off as I installed this on my truck. Hey, I made it. All right, there it is. This piece here. Bolts in there. Goes all the way over to that side of the frame and bolts in from there. And it fits. I think I had to grind a little bit off to clear the brake proportioning valve. But that part makes this truck extremely stable. And I don't worry about my, sorry, put in the sun. Let me get up. I don't worry about my frame cracking. So, there. Uh-oh, I got insulation coming out. So with 35-inch tires or 315, 75 R17 type wheels, the 6.2 diesel, this is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving Day. Drove this thing over to where my son and his wife live, picked them up. We're going to drive 100 miles to where the family was gathering. Texas, for whatever reason, which I like, thinks if there's a 1-lane each way road, pave it. If it's paved 1 lane each way, let's make it 2 lanes each way. If it's 2 lanes each way, let's make it divided highway and make the speed limit 75. Roads out in the middle of nowhere, don't connect places you wouldn't think of. I was on one of those roads getting just passed like crazy, so I set the cruise at 80 miles an hour on this thing. We're cruising along just humming. The 6.5 with the Banks turbo, it gets this little hum. It's not really it's a growl. You can hear the air going in. It sounds really good, 80, 85 miles an hour in this thing. It's just growling. It wants to go. I love that. That sound is really cool. We're cruising along nice and happy, up and down hills everywhere else, and I see my son in the mirror looking around me. Are we going 80 miles an hour? Yeah. wow, this thing is so smooth. He grew up, well, he started driving in a 1009, like one of the ones here. And red, you've seen my other videos where red's used. He put together, but we didn't do the suspension work to it. We didn't put this cross brace on there. It really does help. So that is, I guess I could show that too. Those are the main faults. The steering shaft and the rag joint replacement, all with the XJ shaft, and then the frame braces. But just for general purposes, from the pitman arm, you have the drag link. Goes back to the stern arm here. If you can move your wheel and the tires aren't moving, have somebody move the wheel while you put your hands on that drag link. Chances are either your steering box is loose or the drag link is loose. And not the drag link, then the tie rod between the two wheels. Anyway, a little bit about possible problems with square body Chevy steering.